Here's how you can get 10 hours back a week by following this 8-step plan. Step 1, get clear on what's important but not urgent. So I'm going to take you through Stephen Covey's time quadrant so we can get an understanding of all the elements and determine what is important and not urgent so we can get the most important things done. I'm going to take you through a little example called the jar of rocks. So I think Covey did this years and years ago to show you how this all works. So let's take a look. So Covey says there's 4 elements. So element number 1 is it's not urgent, not important, but it takes a bunch of our time in our day. The second one is it's urgent, but it's still not important and we shouldn't be doing it. The fourth one is what he calls the zone of demand, because it is urgent and it is important, and it's the sort of things that we get sucked into on the day-to-day. And the fourth one is it's important, but it's not urgent. And because it's not urgent, we don't get to it, but we should, because it's super important and can set us up for success. So I'm going to take you through the jar of rocks to see what this looks like. So we've got some very important elements here. We've got our rocks, we've got our pebbles, we've got our sand, and we've got our water. And these represent the 4 elements. And so here's the problem. If you don't put them in the jar properly, what happens is they don't all fit. So there's a sequence to it. And so the sequence is, this is important but not urgent, and it's got to go in my jar first. If it doesn't go in my jar first, I'm in trouble, because it ain't going to fit later on. And I'll show you that a little bit later on. So here we are, we're putting our most important things that we've worked out first. And then we've got the urgent but important. So these are the day-to-day demands that happen in the business, from customers, from staff, from team, from suppliers, all sorts of things. I've got to get these, they're going to go in there. But if I haven't put my most important in first, these are going to jam it up. And then I get my sand. So this is stuff that's not important, but it's urgent. And quite often in business, we get sucked into this. And hopefully I don't make a mess on my desk here, but here we go. Yep, made a mess. That's all right. I know the cleaner. All right, so this stuff goes in there. Still a bit more room in my 24 hours of my jar. Get it in there. Alright. But then there's still room, believe it or not, for what we call not urgent, not important. So this is stuff that's just really is a complete waste of time. We don't want to get caught up in it. But it can still fit if we've got all the other stuff in there. Watch it go. It's going in there. I can get plenty of this stuff in if I put the other stuff in first. Still going. Bubble, bubble, bubble. Yeah, I can still fit more of this stuff in. Now, here's the problem. If I put the not urgent, not important, so let's call it the water, if I put that in first, then stuff's just going to go everywhere. If I put the sand in first, there's not going to be room for the pebbles or the rocks. So I've got to put the big rocks, the most important, when they're not urgent, I've got to put them in my jar first. So they go first in my diary every day. They go first in my week every week. I get the most important stuff done before it becomes urgent, and then I've got time in my diary for these other things which are urgent and important. Now sometimes they become urgent because I never did them when I should have, and other times it's just the demand of the business. I hope that makes sense. But if I don't put it in the right sequence, then it's just not going to fit. Hope that makes sense. So that leads me on to step number 2. How do I know what's important? How do I know what's urgent? How do I know the stuff I shouldn't be doing? Well, what I've got to do is a time audit. I've got to see, what am I doing with my time? And I recommend you get a sheet of paper and you write it down in 15-minute increments to see what is really happening with your time and which zones are they going to, but also have a look at what you know is important. I'll get to that in a minute, and start circling that as you do your time audit, which leads me into step number 3. And this is to value your time. It's to look at, what is my time worth? And I can do this in a number of ways. If I had to pay someone to do what I do, which is running, managing the business, building the business, I'd probably be paying them, $100, $200 an hour. So I want to look at things that I'm doing. Are they $100 or $200 an hour, or are they $20 an hour things? And after I've done my time audit, I want to put a value to all the things I'm doing, and I want to look at what can I get off my plate, which leads me to the next part, which is I go through the list of the low value things and I have a look at, can I eliminate it? And here's another step. Can I delegate it? And here's another step. Can I automate it? So if I can eliminate it, that means my business doesn't really need to do it. I shouldn't be doing it in the day-to-day of the business. My staff shouldn't be doing it. If I need to delegate it, what it means is it's got to get done by someone, just not me. And if I can automate it, especially in this wonderful day of technology, then I probably should automate it to make things work better, not just for me, but for my staff. So that's the first 6, which now leads me to step number 7. And step number 7 is to put some boundaries in place. Boundaries for you with what you will do with your time, what you won't do with your time, but also boundaries around you to let your staff know, your team know, whichever word you want to use for them, let them know when you're working on the most important things in your business that there's a boundary around you that cannot be penetrated for that moment in time. It might be for an hour a day, 2 hours a day, whatever it might be, so that you can do the most important things without interruption, get them done properly so your business moves forward. Hope that makes sense. And step number 8, it's the things you say no to that give you control of your time. If you're saying yes to everything, then your time's just going to go everywhere. It's going to be like that sand and water we talked about before. But what you say no to, so you've got to be very deliberate in what gets your attention, what you're allowed to do with your time, so that you can concentrate on the most important things, the big rocks, getting them in your jar first, so that you can take your business exactly where you want to take it. So let me just do a recap with this. Know what's most important, yet not urgent, and make sure they go into your diary first thing every day, first thing of your week. Do an audit of your time, put a value to everything that you're doing, eliminate things that need to be eliminated out of your business, delegate what needs to be delegated, automate where you can automate, put boundaries in place to protect your time, when you're working on those most important things, and say no to a whole bunch of stuff that you've been saying yes to, because that stuff is taking you away from where you need to be in your business. I hope this is helpful. I'd love to see you put this into practice. Let me know how you get on with it. But within 2, 3, 4 weeks, you should be getting 10 hours back to do more important things and get rid of less important things in your business. Follow me for more.